Goblets, the soft strains of lute music, the scent of baked pears. Beauty isn't just visual, it's immersive. You're part of it, moving through the atmosphere like a trained actor hitting their cue. But then Lady Clarimonde enters and the room inhales. Her gown? Deep crimson velvet, edged with black fox fur. Her headdress? The height of architectural risk. And her skin? Pale, soft, and glowing. There are whispers. New recipe. No lead. Possibly divine intervention. You feel the room tilt slightly toward her orbit. And just like that, tomorrow's beauty trend is born. You sigh, sipping your watered wine. Staying fashionable is exhausting. But the rush of knowing you're being watched, even envied, that's the real glow-up. So you sit a little taller, smile just enough to show interest, but not so much that anyone sees your molar, and pretend you're thinking deep thoughts. Maybe about art, maybe about herbal eye salves, maybe about whether you could smuggle out a piece of that honeyed tart without creasing your sleeves. Because here, beauty isn't about perfection, it's about presentation. The show never ends. It's midnight now, but the fire hasn't burned out, and neither has your curiosity. You lie back in your lumpy straw mattress, feet tucked under the scratchy wool blanket, and wonder, how did beauty even start meaning what it does here? Because you've been plucking, scrubbing, staining, and whitening for days now, and somehow it still doesn't feel like enough. You close your eyes, imagining a simpler time, and before you know it, you're wandering down the long, torchlit corridor of medieval beauty origins. Let's rewind a few centuries. Long before wimples and whalebone, medieval Europe was absorbing ideas of beauty from everywhere, especially the ancient world. Romans left behind their obsession with symmetry and balance. The Greeks whispered tales of golden proportions and bodies like marble gods. Their influence lingered like expensive perfume on a second-hand gown. Historians still argue whether medieval beauty ideals were a true continuation of classical traditions or more of a selective remix, blending Roman hygiene with Christian morality. Either way, by the 12th century, beauty had become more than skin-deep. It was tied to virtue. That's right, pretty ill good. If you were beautiful, it meant you were probably chaste, honest, spiritually pure. Your rosy cheeks, a sign of inner health. Your pale skin, proof you weren't laboring in the fields like a peasant. Your shining hair, probably divine favor, or at least expensive oil. Looking good didn't just help you land a noble spouse, it meant you were worthy. This is the age of courtly love, remember? Where troubadours composed songs about unattainable noble ladies with tiny feet and sad eyes. Where knights jousted for handkerchiefs and people believed you could literally die from lovesickness. And in this world, beauty was the emotional currency. You stir slightly under your blanket, the mattress creaking like an old door. Even in your half-asleep days, the pieces come together. Of course it mattered how you looked. This wasn't just about vanity, it was about your soul. And religion? Oh, it had thoughts about beauty. The church tried to promote the idea that inner virtue trumped outward appearance. But even the saints got stylized. If you were a holy woman in a painting, you still had clear skin and perfect bone structure. Holiness didn't exempt you from glamour. In fact, in religious art, physical beauty was often used to symbolize spiritual goodness. A pretty saint? Probably closer to God. A disfigured villain? Definitely evil. That's how visual storytelling worked. And yes, this could be problematic. Take Joan of Arc, for example. Contemporary accounts describe her as plain, even boyish. But over time, artists began idealizing her. Big eyes, delicate lips, gentle features, the kind of face that says, I see visions and moisturize. It wasn't about what she actually looked like, it was about how beauty reinforced her message. Then there were the texts, manuals and guides written for noblewomen. Some focused on etiquette or devotion, but others gave specific beauty instructions. Mix this root with that flower. Bathe at this hour. Sleep with your head elevated. Smile only with your eyes. These weren't TikTok hacks. These were serious steps to craft your visible holiness. You imagine yourself as a lady-in-waiting, hunched over a flickering candle, copying a recipe from a borrowed herbal, crushed almonds and goose fat for hand cream, chamomile to lighten hair, sage to rinse your mouth, and just maybe a prayer tucked between the lines. Because what if it helped? The deeper you go, the more you realize medieval beauty was always borrowed. From Rome, from the church, from nature, from folklore, even from abroad. Take the influence of the East. Through trade routes and the Crusades, medieval Europe discovered a treasure trove of new ingredients and aesthetics. Saffron, henna, jasmine oil, musk. Women experimented with imported powders and exotic treatments. Some even adopted eyebrow-shaping techniques from the Islamic world, where grooming was already elevated to an art form. Beauty didn't recognize borders. It flowed through markets, marriages, and myths. But while the ideas were expansive, the execution could be restrictive. Your body wasn't fully your own. It was a reflection of your father's status, your husband's wealth, your family's honor. Your appearance had to walk a tightrope. Desirable but not seductive, elegant but not vain, striking but never threatening. You scratch your ankle under the blanket. It's itchy, probably from that rose vinegar soak. You whisper to yourself, I suffer, therefore I sparkle. It almost helps. And now you remember the beauty superstitions passed down from the village elders. Never look into a mirror by candlelight. Your soul might slip out. Always comb your hair under a full moon. It will grow faster. Never share your eyeliner pot. It opens the door to envy. Were these beauty tips or magical warnings? Both, probably. The truth is, beauty in the medieval world wasn't a finished product. It was a process, a pursuit, a delicate dance between what you were born with and what you could coax from oils, herbs, and careful presentation. Some women leaned into it. They made their appearance their power. Others resisted, quietly letting their veils fall loose, their hems trail mud, their cheeks stay bare. And even those choices spoke volumes. You picture yourself in a mirror, not the warped, scratched tin one in your chamber, but a clear, honest reflection. You see the plucked brow, the faint freckle near your lip, the smudge of dried lavender oil at your temple. You look tired, determined, very slightly smug. You look exactly like someone who survived 5 straight hours of medieval beautifying and still remembers to raise one eyebrow at court. And that honestly is beautiful. So you roll onto your side, one hand curled under your cheek, and finally, let your eyes close. Not because you've finished learning, but because you've earned it. Tomorrow there will be more vinegar, more braiding, more whispered rumors in the tapestry-lined corridors. But tonight, you sleep like a painted Madonna, serene, stylized, and vaguely glowing. You wake to birdsong and the familiar crick of your neck from sleeping in a semi-upright position. Because apparently in some households, people believe lying flat invites demons into your mouth. Whether that's true or just an elaborate excuse for bad morning breath remains unclear. Either way, you're back in the world, still beautiful, still mildly exhausted, and today, you're going outside. Which means only one thing, sun strategy. You wrap your cloak tightly and peek through the wooden shutters. That dreadful golden orb is already climbing over the hills. A light breeze stirs the trees, but it won't save you. You sigh. Time to prepare for your medieval sun avoidance protocol. In this era, pale skin isn't just desirable, it's required. If your face bears even the faintest whisper of a tan, people might assume you work. Outside, in the sun, like a peasant. Shudder. So you bundle up, veil, coif, hood, layers upon layers designed to keep your skin as luminous as parchment and just as fragile. Your only exposed flesh is your fingertips, which you'll keep tucked into your sleeves anyway. You are a walking fabric burrito with excellent posture. Historians still argue whether this obsession with pallor was rooted entirely in classism, or if it also reflected deeper cultural fears. Sunburns were unpleasant, yes, but also seen as imbalances of the bodily humours. Too much heat in your system could throw off your whole equilibrium, which might explain why everyone keeps pressing cold herbs to their temples during long rides. Regardless of origin, pale skin is the ultimate flex. And maintaining it, a full-time job. You're armed today with one of the era's most prized concoctions, ceruse. A face-whitening mixture made of lead and vinegar. Yes, lead. It goes on smooth, gives your skin that fashionable ghost-like glow, and over time slowly poisons you. But hey, at least you look ethereal while your gums recede. You apply it carefully in front of your polished metal mirror. First your cheeks, then your forehead, and a dab on your neck. You try not to think about the soft tingling that's probably a warning sign. No one ever said beauty was painless, or apparently safe. And it's not just you. Everyone's doing it. In fact, there's a quiet, shared panic happening among the noble ladies of the region. Someone has developed a freckle. Not a full constellation, just one. But it's already the talk of the hall. The poor girl has been scrubbing with lemon juice and vinegar for days. She's even started sleeping with crushed rose petals pressed to her face. You wish her well, but also you kind of hope it doesn't work. A little schadenfreude keeps things interesting. As you saddle up for your ride, you notice the men are facing the same golden enemy. Sure, knights could get away with some sun darkening, after all, battle scars are a brand, but even they have limits. Too much bronzing, and people start whispering about improper company and foreign blood. Because medieval Europe, for all its poetry and religious devotion, is deeply into sorting people by appearance. The darker your skin, the further people assume you are from power. And that leads us straight into one of the darker corners of the beauty standard closet, the intertwining of race, class, and appearance. You ride past a roadside shrine, where a painted Madonna gazes down from faded fresco. Her skin, unnaturally pale, her eyes blue as northern skies, her hair golden and flowing. She's meant to look holy, universal, but she also looks a lot like the noble ladies back home. It's no accident. Christian Europe, shaped by conquest, myth, and a fear of the unfamiliar, clung to the idea that beautiful meant European. Eastern features were exoticized, African features were erased. The more foreign you looked, the more likely you were cast as a character, either seductive or suspicious, but rarely noble. And yet the beauty imports kept coming. Kohl eyeliner, Middle Eastern, musk perfume, India, silks, China, henna, North Africa. People adored the products of other cultures, even while rejecting the people themselves, a paradox that would echo for centuries. You nudge your horse forward through the dusty road, hood drawn low. A merchant cart passes, loaded with spice crates and perfume bottles. You recognize the familiar scent of civet, another favorite among the elite, derived from, well, a very specific gland of a very specific animal. Best not to dwell on it. You arrive at the next manor house by midday. A small gathering of noblewomen are in the orchard, playing a game of poetic riddles and pretending not to compete over whose hair shines brightest in the filtered sun. You join in, sipping pear cordial and smiling when appropriate. You're careful to keep your veil artfully loose, framing your face like a draped tapestry. You angle yourself toward the shadows. Not only does it flatter your cheekbones, it avoids the risk of your carouse melting into streaks, because nothing says unfit for courtly love like white face paint pooling around your collarbones. And here's something unexpected. One lady is proudly showing off a tan, actual colour in her face. She's just returned from Spain, and she's leaning into her sun-kissed glow like it's the latest thing. Her gown is lighter than protocol allows, her sleeves are shorter. She's laughing a little too loudly. There's a ripple of silence, then curiosity, then admiration. Is she bold or foolish? You can't decide. But later that night, you catch 3 other ladies subtly rolling up their sleeves under the candlelight, just enough to show a hint of wrist, because trends shift, always, even here. Some scholars believe there was a brief period in southern courts where a healthy flush replaced the deathly pale ideal. Others insist it was only among travellers and artist circles. But there are records, poems, portraits, whispers of pink cheeks and wind-blown curls. So maybe the ideal beauty isn't fixed. Maybe it floats, like a veil in the wind, tugged this way and that by war, trade, gossip, and someone's bold decision to let their freckles show. You ride home as the sky darkens. The breeze has cooled, and your skin, protected and powdered, has survived the day unscathed. But something in you wonders, what would it feel like to let the sun hit your face just once? No veil, no lead paste, just warmth, exposure, freedom. Maybe tomorrow. For now, You wash your face gently with rainwater and chamomile. You dab rose oil onto your temples. You blow out the candle, knowing your skin remains the right shade of nothingness, pale, protected, and still somehow perfect. You sit cross-legged on a padded bench, comb in hand, facing your most loyal subject, your hair, or rather the sprawling, tangled ecosystem you call hair. Today is wash day, which means boiling water, eggshell potions, and a few whispered prayers. Because in the medieval world, a woman's hair isn't just hair, it's reputation, identity, and possibly witchcraft all rolled into one. Let's start with the basics. Hair is serious business. It's romantic, it's symbolic, it's scandalous. In paintings and poetry, a glimpse of a woman's loose hair is often shorthand for passion or disaster. Loose hair means vulnerability, wildness, and yes, sometimes sin. Which is why, most of the time, you keep yours firmly hidden beneath layers of linen, netting, and, on dramatic days, a towering headdress that looks suspiciously like a very stylish birdcage. But underneath it all, still counts. Hair has to be clean, shiny, and presentable, just in case you're ever summoned to a moonlit balcony or a surprise pilgrimage. So, wash day. You lean over a basin while your handmaiden pours warm rainwater through your hair. It smells faintly of rose petals, stored in a sealed ceramic jar since the last storm. You shiver, not from the cold, but from the sheer absurdity of how complicated it is to keep something attached to your body from being offensive. Soap? Not really a thing you want to use on your scalp, it's too harsh. Instead, you make a paste from dried rosemary, crushed barley, and the yolk of one unlucky egg. Whip it all together into a yellowish goo, then slather generously. It smells weird, but it works. Your scalp tingles in a good way. Historians still argue whether hair washing was a weekly or monthly event for most medieval women. Some sources suggest noble women might cleanse their hair as often as every few days, depending on water access, vanity, or weather. Others argue that full hair washing was rare, with most upkeep done via combing, oiling, and dry shampoo powders made from crushed herbs and starch. You choose to believe you're ahead of your time. After rinsing, your maid begins the long, slow detangling process. Combs are carved from wood, bone, or horn, and you own a particularly lovely one with tiny floral etchings. Totally impractical, but it makes you feel like a forest nymph. She starts at the ends and works upward, careful not to break your strands. Breakage, after all, is a tragedy. Long, unbroken hair symbolizes youth, fertility, and social polish. You wince as she hits a knot. "Apologies, my lady." You nod, pretending it doesn't feel like someone's peeling your soul out through your scalp. Finally, dry time. You drape your hair across a linen towel and sit near the hearth, letting the fire do the work. The smoke clings to your strands, mingling with the rosemary and egg. You smell vaguely edible. Hair length? Vital. Short hair is frowned upon for women, unless you've taken religious vows or been very ill or just escaped from a burning tower. Otherwise, the longer the better. Waist length at minimum. Hips, if you're lucky. If your hair accidentally brushes the floor, congratulations, you're basically a fairy tale. But length alone isn't enough. Your hair also needs to be smooth, thick, and ideally golden, because of course it does. Blonde hair was the medieval jackpot. Why? Because of Venus, because of poetry, because of strange early beauty math that equated golden locks with virtue and wealth. Brunettes were respected, redheads were feared, blondes worshipped. If you weren't naturally blonde, there were options. You could bleach your hair using mixtures of saffron, alum, and lye. Yes, lye, as in burns through wood if you're not careful. Some even sat for hours in the sun with their hair spread on boards and coated in bleach paste, praying for highlights and not hair loss. Today, you skip the bleach and settle for a rinse with chamomile and honey water. It's rumoured to bring out golden tones over time. And if it doesn't, at least you smell divine. Your maid begins braiding, slow, methodical, practiced. She weaves your hair into an elegant crown braid, pinning it neatly above your ears. Then the veil. Always the veil. Because a woman with uncovered hair is either in her own chambers, in labour, or doing something scandalous. Married women cover their hair in public. Unmarried girls might wear theirs loose at festivals or feast days, but even that's starting to fall out of fashion. Virginity and covered hair go hand in hand. So, unless you want people whispering about your virtue, the linen stays on. But here's the twist. Your veil is not just a symbol of modesty, it's a canvas. You fold it just right to show a bit of embroidered edge. The golden threads glint in the sunlight. You pull it back ever so slightly to reveal your hairline, plucked, shaped, and powdered. It's a game. Hide everything, then hint at it. Mystery makes the heart grow fonder. Oh, and speaking of hairlines, let's talk forehead fashion. In some courts, the higher your forehead, the better. Women plucked their hairlines to elongate the brow. Yes, plucked their hairlines. Imagine looking in the mirror each morning, deciding your face isn't long enough, and grabbing a pair of tweezers. The result? Smooth, domed foreheads that said, "I am noble, serene, and definitely not full of rash, hormonal decisions." It's a trend that modern beauty influencers have not yet resurrected. Men, of course, have their own hair rituals. Most wear it chin length or just past the ears, often styled with a little wave. Hair dye isn't unheard of, though more common among performers, court officials, or the vainest of squires. Beards come and go. One decade clean-shaven is in, the next it's all about trimmed goatees. Fashion moves in cycles, even with facial hair. And for those who lose it, wigs are rare, but not unknown. Some noblemen go full hood and hat mode. Others grow out the sides and pretend no one notices the bald spot. And still, no one escapes the scrutiny of a sharp-eyed court lady. You take one last look at your reflection. Your hair is clean, braided, and shining. Your veil is crisp. Your forehead is high enough to satisfy a bishop. You are ready to face whatever this castle throws at you today, whether it's a poetry contest, a surprise feast, or a suspicious new mole on Lady Isolt's jawline. Because in this world, your hair isn't just hair. It's a crown. And you wear it tucked neatly under linen with undeniable pride. You're standing in the cool echo of the chapel, the scent of beeswax and old stone wrapped around you like a second cloak. The morning service has ended, and now the court lingers, some praying, some whispering, some, like you, pretending to look pious while sneakily checking out the latest aesthetic sins. Because today's story isn't about plucking or potions. It's about morality, or at least how the medieval world managed to tie beauty and morality together into a braid so tight it could strangle you. Let's face it, you've probably been judged today. Maybe because your veil was a shade too sheer. Maybe because your belt sat a little too snug at your waist. Maybe because someone spotted you using a bit of blush made from cochineal beetles and immediately assumed you were trying to seduce the deacon. In this world, looking good is a balancing act. One toe out of line, and suddenly you're not just vain, you're dangerous. Medieval sermons had feelings about beauty. The church taught that excessive attention to appearance was vanity, a deadly sin, right up there with greed, gluttony, and forgetting to pay your tithes. Beauty wasn't inherently evil. After all, wasn't God the original artist? But when you started using white lead and imported oils and flirting in the confession line, that's when eyebrows were raised. Plucked, of course, but raised. Historians still argue whether the church's beauty-shaming was consistent or conveniently flexible, depending on who was funding the new chapel window. It's a fair debate. There are accounts of bishops condemning perfumes in the same breath they blessed oil-rich queens. You take a seat near the altar, adjusting your sleeves modestly. You look holy. You feel vaguely unwashed. This is probably the sweet spot. And here's the real irony. The church used beauty, even while condemning it. Step into any cathedral and you'll see angels with perfect curls, saints with glowing skin, and a Madonna who looks suspiciously like a well-fed noblewoman in a mid-range court portrait. Beauty was used to inspire, to lift the soul, to signal divine order. So why were you getting side-eyed for tinting your lips? Because intent mattered. If you were beautifying yourself to honor God, wonderful. If you were beautifying yourself to tempt the stable boy, well, now we have a problem. Enter the mystical loophole, holy beauty. A few clever women managed to thread the moral needle by framing their routines as acts of devotion, cleansing the body to reflect spiritual purity, applying oils as a form of sacred anointing, wearing fresh garlands to celebrate feast days. If you looked good for God, it was technically okay. But not everyone played it safe. Take Hildegard of Bingen, mystic, composer, medical writer. She was deeply religious, but also wrote about herbal beauty treatments. Her stance, the body is a gift, and taking care of it honors the Creator. Radical stuff. She probably would have approved of your rosewater rinse, assuming you didn't flaunt it too much. Still, the line between self-care and sin was razor thin. A noble woman might wear a subtle blush to appear healthy, but if she wore too much, vanity. A girl might oil her hair with rosemary for the smell, but if it made her shine too brightly at the midsummer feast, temptation. And don't even start on mirrors. Mirrors were seen as morally risky. They encouraged pride. Self-reflection, sure, but the wrong kind. Some preachers warned women not to stare too long at their reflections lest the devil sneak in through the silvered glass, which sounds ridiculous, until you remember the last time you obsessed over a crooked eyebrow for 20 full minutes. You look around now. The room is full of faces, painted, powdered, pinched, and perfect. But all of them subdued under candlelight and holy silence, everyone pretending not to compete while secretly judging whose wimple is better starched. There's Lady Osanna, her hair covered but visibly voluminous underneath, probably stuffed with wool. There's the young novitiate with impossibly clear skin, rumoured to be from scrubbing with snow and ash. And there's you, wondering whether your habit of tracing your lips with berry juice falls under natural enhancement or gateway sin. Suddenly the priest begins a homily. Today's subject? Temptation. Of course. He warns of pride, of beauty misused, of souls lost to mirrors and fashionable ribbons. You nod solemnly, biting your lip just enough to bring out the colour. Subtle rebellion. But not all medieval voices preached restraint. Courtly poets praised beauty with abandon. Fair was the ultimate compliment. A woman's golden hair could inspire entire wars, or at least some vaguely erotic lute songs. Troubadours didn't care about sermons, they cared about sonnets. So did many noblemen who wanted beautiful wives to match their shiny suits of armour. In fact, being too modest could backfire. If you looked too plain, people assumed you were sick, cursed, or hiding something. So really, you had to be just beautiful enough to look virtuous, but not so beautiful that you got blamed for someone else's wandering thoughts. It's exhausting. You shift in your seat and catch a glimpse of the stained glass window. The Virgin Mary stands framed in blue and gold, serene and glowing. Her hands are folded, her skin is flawless. She's a divine archetype and a medieval influencer rolled into one. The message is clear: be like her, but also don't pretend you'll ever match her, but also try. And what about men? They weren't immune. A knight too obsessed with his tunic cut or beard dye might be accused of effeminacy, a real moral concern. Vanity was seen as unmanly and spiritually weak. But a bit of scented oil? Acceptable. A touch of rouge for a performance? Dubiously tolerated. A peacock feather in your cap? Risky, but fashionable. So everyone danced the line. And you? You walk that tightrope daily between devotion and desire, between holy and hot. After the service, you join the others in the cloister garden, plucking mint leaves for tea and pretending not to eavesdrop. Lady Cecily is whispering about a new eye salve, something with crushed pearl and milk of fig, guaranteed to soften your gaze. You consider it. Then remind yourself you already have 3 unopened jars and a minor reputation for overindulging in face paste. But that's the trick, isn't it? In a world where beauty is sin, salvation, and self-expression all at once, you learn to craft your image like a stained glass window, transparent in places, coloured by choice, letting light in, but never too much. You smile at Lady Cecily, then at the young novitiate, then at the statue of the Virgin, eyes upturned, cheeks eternally blushed, with divine grace. You're not perfect, but you're trying. And maybe that's the most beautiful thing of all. You wake to the sound of distant bells, muffled by a heavy fog curling in through the open window. For once, the air smells clean, like wet earth and wood smoke. A peaceful start, which is exactly how you know something's about to go terribly, beautifully wrong. Because today, dear listener, is festival day. And that means makeup. That means competition. That means everyone, and I do mean everyone, is about to show up looking like a human tapestry, embroidered with equal parts effort, anxiety, and powdered rosemary. You sit up slowly, cracking joints and taking mental inventory. Limbs? Present. Face? Still attached. Hair? Somewhere beneath that linen cap, probably resembling a medieval bird's nest. You're going to need everything in your beauty arsenal. Let's talk medieval makeup. Now, technically, makeup was frowned upon. As we've discussed, too much visible enhancement was associated with vanity, seduction, even witchcraft. But that never stopped anyone. They just got sneakier. Medieval cosmetics were often disguised as health treatments. You weren't painting your face, you were restoring your natural bloom. You weren't tinting your lips, you were preventing dryness. And if anyone caught you lining your eyes, you could always say you were warding off the evil eye. Historians still argue whether most women applied makeup themselves or relied on servants and apothecaries. Either way, the result was the same. Visible effort disguised as divine accident. You're not made up. You're just blessed. Today, you begin with the basics. First, the base. You apply your favorite concoction. A creamy paste made from crushed chalk, vinegar, and a touch of rose oil. It dries quickly, leaving a pale, powdery finish that whispers, "I definitely haven't seen the sun in weeks." It also flakes a little when you smile too hard, but who needs emotions? Then the cheeks. Blush, called rouge or fucus, comes from natural dyes. Your favorite is made from crushed madder root, blended with goose fat into a soft paste. You tap it gently on your cheeks with your ring finger, just enough to suggest you might blush at a compliment, not enough to suggest you've been sprinting through the forest in a scandalous ballad. Next, the lips. Some women use elderberries, others beetroot. You go with a classic, alkanet root soaked in oil. It leaves a rich stain somewhere between ripe cherry and mild blood oath. You blot with a square of linen and consider eating nothing for the rest of the day to preserve it. And finally, the eyes. This is where things get risky. A soft touch of soot or coal along the lash line was believed to ward off illness. Of course, it also happened to make your eyes pop dramatically. A coincidence, obviously. You use a tiny brush made of squirrel hair to apply a smudge of powdered antimony. You blink. The effect is subtle, mysterious, and slightly alarming if done incorrectly. You check the mirror. Well, polished copper plate. You tilt your head. You look like someone who reads poetry and keeps secrets. Perfect. But wait, you're not done. There's the brows, carefully shaped and darkened with a blend of soot and oak gall. The lashes, combed gently with a clean thorn. The scent, always important. You dab lavender oil on your wrists and a drop of clove near your neckline. Smells sweet but not edible, mysterious but not medicinal, like someone who's been kissed by angels and owns land. As you finish, you hear commotion outside, carriages arriving, musicians tuning, and someone already yelling about pie. Time to dress. Your gown is silk, dyed a deep jewel tone that took a fortune and several crushed insects to achieve. The sleeves are long, trailing like the hem of a saint's robe. Your belt gleams with brass filigree. Your veil is starched and crisp, positioned just enough off-center to suggest effortless grace. You look like a vision from a dream, or possibly a very well-funded morality play. You arrive at the town square just as the dancing begins. People swirl in embroidered wool and linen, children chase each other with flower crowns, vendors shout about roasted chestnuts and candied almonds, and everywhere you look, faces, painted, powdered, peeking from behind veils and masks. Festival is one of the few days when makeup is openly embraced. Today, even the strictest abbess might allow a little rouge. Even the most solemn knight might slick his hair with perfumed oil. Appearances are theatre, and you, my friend, are the main act. You glide past a rival lady with suspiciously flawless skin. Rumour has it she uses powdered snail shells for her face mask. You nod. Respect. You catch sight of a young girl wearing bright blue on her eyelids, a bold choice. Blue pigment is expensive and rare, made from lapis lazuli imported from far-off lands. She's clearly trying to make a statement. The statement might be, "My uncle is a merchant and I'm not afraid to show it." Nearby, a group of older women discuss a miracle dust brought by a trader from Venice. Supposedly it evens out blotchy skin, stops wrinkles, and, if inhaled, wards off heartbreak. You suspect it's just tinted rice flour, but honestly, you want some. And just like that you spot it, the makeup merchant. His cart is covered in glass vials and tiny jars, labels scrawled in Latin and half-true promises. He catches your eye and offers a smile like melted honey. "For you, noble lady," he says, "a powder blessed by desert stars." You raise an eyebrow. He leans in. "Fine, it's ground rose quartz and chalk, but it sparkles in candlelight." You hand over a silver coin, no regrets. As the sun begins to set, you touch up your lips with a berry-stained cloth, powder your nose, and repin your veil. All around you the torches are lit. Music swells. Laughter echoes between stone walls. You've made it through the day with your makeup intact, your dignity mostly preserved, and only one smudge on your collar. And for a moment you think, this isn't just about looking good, it's about showing up. As your best self, as your brightest self, as someone who can wield powder and pigment like a knight wields steel. Because in this world, beauty isn't shallow, it's armor. And tonight you shine. The festivities have spilled into the night like a goblet knocked sideways, sweet, chaotic, and just a little sticky. You're back in your chamber now, candlelight flickering, shoes off, veil folded neatly beside your hair combs. Your cheeks are warm from dancing, your feet ache in ways you'll definitely feel tomorrow, and your face, well, your face is a battlefield. Because now it's time for the medieval nighttime routine. Not exactly the wind down most would dream of. There's no lavender-scented silk pillow, no double cleanse, and certainly no battery-powered skincare tools humming softly in the background. But oh, there's a ritual. And like everything else in your world, it walks the fine line between sacred and absurd. First things first, removal. You dip a linen cloth into a bowl of tepid milk and rosewater, the universal solvent for the powdered, stained, and smudged. You press gently onto your cheeks, wiping away the day's efforts. A pale, chalky ghost of your ceruse base lifts off. It smells faintly of flowers and regret. Then your lips. The alkanet has faded into a berry bruise, but it still clings. You dab honey on a cloth and gently rub. The sweetness distracts you from the soreness. Somewhere behind your temple, a dull throb has started, likely from inhaling powdered antimony in close proximity for several hours. Occupational hazard. You reach for your clay pot of chamomile balm and rub it onto your cheeks and forehead. Supposedly, it draws out heat and purifies the skin overnight. In reality, it smells nice and feels like you're doing something, which, let's be honest, is half of beauty's appeal. Historians still argue whether noble women truly followed these nighttime skincare regimens religiously, or if most just collapsed into bed and prayed for minimal blemishes. But diaries and herbal guides from the time do detail elaborate sleeping salves and nocturnal cures for unsightly humours. So, either someone was committed or someone was pretending to be committed for social clout, which again feels familiar. You lean into the mirror, your polished pewter plate, and inspect. There's a freckle near your jaw. A very small one. It might have always been there, or it might have appeared after that afternoon ride through the sun-dappled orchard 2 weeks ago. You aren't sure, but it wasn't invited. You make a note to try lemon juice tomorrow, or maybe crushed cucumber seeds, and then, of course, the hair. You remove your pins, unwinding the day's braid with gentle fingers. Your scalp sighs with relief. Your hair tumbles down your back, wavy and heavy with the scent of lavender smoke and mild desperation. You comb it slowly, 30 strokes each side, not for detangling, for circulation. Everyone knows blood flow to the scalp is crucial to maintain beauty, and what better time to nurture that flow than in the hour between candle snuffing and actual sleep? You consider oiling it, but not tonight. You're too tired to sleep on linen soaked in walnut and clove. You braid it loosely instead, over one shoulder like a lonely song lyric, and tie the end with a strip of linen. Next, you light a tiny sprig of sage and walk it around the room in slow, spiraling circles. Is it to purify the space? Deter illness? Keep away love spells gone wrong? The records are unclear, but your aunt swore by it, and your aunt had immaculate skin. With the room scented, your face washed and your hair secured, you finally reach for your beauty sleep charm, a small amulet made of silver and bone, engraved with a tiny sunburst. It was a gift. You don't know if it actually does anything, but you clutch it anyway. Because some nights, comfort is just as important as cold cream. And now the bed. You lie on your back, because side sleeping creates wrinkles, or so says Lady Beatrix, who hasn't smiled in 3 years for the sake of her forehead. You keep your arms folded gently across your stomach like a very well-moisturized corpse. You whisper a prayer, not just for safety or peace, but for smooth skin and fewer blackheads. As you close your eyes, your thoughts drift. You wonder if beauty matters this much in every era. Will women of the future smear snail goo on their faces or jab themselves with tiny needles or use light beams to blur their pores? Will they also lie awake at night, wondering whether they're too much or not enough? Whether someone noticed the pimple near their temple or the way their lipstick wore off unevenly after supper? Probably, but maybe they'll also be kinder to themselves. And maybe, if you focus hard enough, you can be kinder too. Because beauty, here, now, isn't just something you wear. It's the ritual, the intention, the little comforts, the sleepy smirk when you remember you did in fact look amazing today, despite the rain, despite the flaking ceruse, despite Lady Cecily's passive-aggressive comment about your ambitious blush. You reach up, snuff the candle and feel the room dissolve into shadows. Your face is clean, your heart is full, your freckles can deal with you tomorrow. Tonight you rest. You wake before the rooster this time, half dreaming, half floating in that strange space where your dreams still echo like voices in a cold corridor. The coals in the hearth are only barely warm. Your room is hushed, the kind of stillness that makes you feel like time itself is holding its breath. Today you don't reach for powder, no beetroot stains, no mint rinse. You sit for a moment, barefoot, blinking into the soft morning light creeping in through the shutters. Because this morning is different. This is the end of the feast cycle. The last day before a long fast. There's no dancing, no parading, no rouge-smeared cheeks under festival garlands. Just quiet, reflection, and for many a return to simplicity. But here's the thing about beauty. It doesn't disappear just because the candles are out or the markets are closed. It doesn't go quiet just because your court mask is off. It hums beneath your skin. You run your fingers through your unbraided hair, knotted from sleep. You look in the mirror and see your face as it really is. Soft, shadowed, and very, very human. The flush on your cheeks isn't madder root, it's from last night's wine. The shine on your nose isn't balm, it's just oil, natural and a little inconvenient. And it's still beautiful. This is where it all settles. Beneath the layers of chalk and carouse, under the silk and saffron, past the judgments and the sermons and the side-eyes from church ladies with impossibly matte foreheads. Because beneath all of it is you. You, and the knowledge that every woman before you has also stared into some polished plate and wondered if she was too much or not enough. Remember when you used to worry about that one freckle near your jaw? You touch it now, it's still there, still small, still just a freckle. And remember the first time you tried alkanet root on your lips? It stained your teeth and made you cry. You laugh now, quietly, remembering how your handmaiden said it looked like you'd kissed a knight to death. Beauty, for all its drama, is full of these moments, some perfect, some humiliating, most somewhere in between. And medieval women, just like you, lived at the center of it all, shaping themselves in the mirror of culture, scripture, desire, and resistance. Historians still argue whether medieval beauty culture was empowering or oppressive. Maybe it was both. Maybe it depended on the woman, the moment, the mood. One day, your veil was a symbol of chastity. The next, it was a weapon of flirtation. One day, your rouge was an innocent flush. The next, it was evidence in a whispered accusation. Beauty was a language, and you learned to speak it fluently, with every powdered cheek and pinned braid. You dress plainly today. A simple tunic, a clean face, but there's still intention. You still smooth the fabric across your hips, still adjust your neckline, even if it's only for yourself. Still check your reflection, just once, just enough. Because beauty isn't always about impressing others. Sometimes it's how you find yourself again. And as you step into the day, feet tapping softly across the stone floor, you feel that quiet confidence settle behind your ribs like warm candlelight. You are no longer decorating yourself to be seen. You are seeing yourself, and that is the oldest kind of magic. Wind down, 300 words. The sky is fading now, pale and stretched like linen. You feel the weight of the day fall away, gently, like petals dropping from a flower that's bloomed long enough. You close your eyes. The echoes of courtly laughter, distant songs, the rustle of silk and the clink of glass, all drift into quiet. Your skin, once powdered and perfumed, now breathes freely in the cool night air. No more ceremonies, no more sidelong glances, no more whispers about who wore what and why it meant everything. You let it go. The freckle stays, the soft fold beside your lip, the ghost of yesterday's berry stain on your fingertips. All of it belongs to you. All of it is real. You are the sum of centuries, of secrets passed from mother to daughter, friend to friend, lady to maid. You are the echo of medieval beauty and modern wonder, held in a single breath. Feel your face soften. Let your muscles ease. Your jaw loosens, your brow smooths, your heart settles into its slow, sleepy rhythm. No need to fix anything now. No need to measure or perfect. You are already whole. And in this stillness, this final hush before dreams take over, you are as beautiful as a summer morning before the birds begin to sing, as soft as the last ember in the hearth, as true as the quiet between bells. Sleep now. You've earned it.